OMGers, good day. Bishop David here, Diocese of Waiapu. It's good to be with you on Oh My God, our virtual social networking church. 1984, I was on my OE. Now, being a Yank, in that context, I wouldn't have called it an OE, an overseas experience at the time, but it was. It was a journey in between university and graduate school, seminary, and it was a bicycle trip which, it took me around the world. Part of that journey, over a year plus of traveling, was in Israel. And whilst I was there, seeing all the sights and having an extraordinary experience, and I don't remember specifically where it was. It could have been Bethlehem, but I came across a vendor who was selling olive wood statues and pieces of work, and I saw this particular one, and I purchased it. It's an olive wood rendering of Jesus, and put it in my pannier, my saddlebags of my bike, and when I was able to, send it back to the United States, so I didn't have to lug Jesus around with me, as it were, for the rest of my journey, even though he was with me, I hasten to add. What's very interesting about this is I just walked into my PA's office and asked her to print something off for me, and she did. And it's this rendering of Jesus. And she said, well, that's not the Jesus I know, to which I said precisely the point. The Jesus we typically know is a Jesus who was fashioned after our own view of ourselves, in this case a Pakeha European Victorian Jesus with a long nose, long straight hair, and light-colored features. This rendering was, I think it came through the BBC a couple of years ago, it may have been a decade now, and don't get stuck on the details, but it's basically a Middle Eastern rendering of what Jesus perhaps looked like. Brown eyes, broader nose, certainly not straight hair, and skin pigmentation, which is far more consistent with people of that part of the world. I like this. So to have just a pause and a look at it. I think a risk that we have run over the centuries is endeavoring to fashion some understanding of God, this case, the Son of God, from the view we have of ourselves. And that's understandable. We believe scripturally, theologically, that we are here in God's image. But in terms of Jesus, a person in human form as we are ourselves, he was who he was historically. And I think that we should be careful about the ways in which we want to fashion something about him that, perhaps isn't the case. But more importantly, this is a theological statement. I think we equally need to be important about fashioning an understanding of God, which probably says far more about us and our desires, our hopes, than it does necessarily about God, God's self. So, as an old theology professor of mine once said, you pay your money, you take your choice. What do you think? Most importantly I think it's really, really crucial that we're important to ourselves, but we're also willing to experience who God is as God is. Perhaps something for us to think about there. Take care. Thanks a lot.